All right, so we have our door ready to go. It's been routered, has the profile put on there. If we hold it up to the opening, we should be about an inch bigger than the opening, as we have a 1/2 inch overlay with this door. So we look like we're in good shape that direction. Now we're going to take our door and put our hinges into the door. So in order to install the door, we've got to drill some holes for our hidden hinges to be installed. If we look at our hidden hinges, they're typically two parts. There's the part that has the cup on there that fits into the door part, and there's the clip part that clips onto the face frame of the project. Now this clip portion has these little feet on there that allow it to catch on the front of the face frame that make it really easy for lining that up, and we'll take a look at that in a minute. But if you want to put your two pieces together, typically they come separated, but you just take that little point on the front of that and line it up with that rod right there, and they should clip together so you don't lose your pieces. We're going to take this over to our hinge press and press some holes or bore some holes into it, and we'll go from there. All right, this is our hinge press. We're going to use this to bore our holes for our hinges. And so this machine and the molder share an outlet, and so if the molder is being used, you can't use the hinge machine, and vice versa. So there's the only 220 outlet in the shop, and so with that 220 we have to share because these two machines are both 220 volt. So once we come up here and we get ready, we're going to have it unplugged right now because we're going to be taking a look close to the bit, and as we're touching things, we're going to want our hands clear from any cutters or knives that may start up on us. So we'll go ahead and get this machine unplugged and we'll examine a little closer. When we first come up to a machine for the day to use it, we need to review the warning labels that might be posted on the machines, to review those to be in the right frame of mind as we are using the machine. We want to make sure we review those so that we're following the right steps and procedures to keep ourselves safe. All right, as we look here, we've got our board, and we're going to take our board, and this has some stops that are already set for us, predetermined set up, and you can see those right under here. They're little flapper type things that your board is going to butt up against, and so your one corner is going to butt up against the far stop, and vice versa. If we're doing the other edge, this corner is going to set up to the far stop, and we're going to put it up against that stop so your board is tight up against there, and then we want to make sure our board is resting against the other stop. And so as we push this tight, we want to make sure we're against that stop. Now, because I already have a radius on here, if I push down on the edge, my workpiece or my wood, this radius is going to want to pop up on top of this little lip. And so I've got to make sure I'm firm against these two stops that have a bulkier body to them so I don't lose my correct orientation. So as I put my board down, I want to make sure I'm firm against those two stops that are there. Okay, one stop my corner is against, the other stop I'm just resting on top of. And again, if I hold tight to those, I should be good. If I hold tight down on the end, it's got a little bit of extra movement and it's going to misalign our hinges. So we want to make sure we're pushing kind of straight out from the bit here and holding that down. Now as this drills, it's going to drill 3 holes. It's going to drill a big hole for the cup and 2 dowel holes for the dowel portion of the hinge to press into. But we're going to line up our pieces just like that. You may want to look at your door and determine if there's one side that you want to be your hinge side or not. It doesn't really matter a whole lot. But I'm going to line that up there then, tight against the stop, and then I'm going to hold on to the workpiece. When I push this white button to operate, as soon as I push that, these clamps are going to come down and put pressure on the workpiece. Okay, I'm going to also hold on to that so I know if it moves. So my left hand would be holding the workpiece kind of like this. my right hand would go up and hold the white button. Now I have to hold it until the machine comes all the way down. If I don't hold it, the machine is just going to clamp, and as soon as I let go of the button, it's going to release back up. So let's take a look at this in full operation. Now that we've looked up close, we'll have to plug the machine in to get it ready to go, make sure the cord's good and the prongs are all there, and then we'll show you how to operate it. All right, I got my board lined up, my machine's plugged in, I'm lined up against the correct stop. I'm going to push it tight against those two stops, make sure I'm not rocking back and forth on the table. And then I'm going to hold the white button, and as I hold it, the head is going to come down and make our cut. So let's see what that looks like. Now you want to hold the button until the head comes down all the way. If it just slowly stops, or you're not sure if it went all the way, you could push the button again to make sure that that hole is to the correct depth. All right, now that we're done, this clamp is still engaged on our workpiece. So up here on the right, we have off, auto, and release for the hold down clamp. And so we're gonna find the release button, and when we hit that to release, those clamps come up and disengage the workpiece. So then I'm going to realign my workpiece up to this corner here and that stop underneath. And I'm going to push tight right in line here where those stops are, so I don't have, again, a rock on the workpiece. And then when I have it lined up, I'm going to hold the white button again, and the head is going to come down. And now again, if I just push it, it starts up and the clamps engage, but the head doesn't actually move. So I have to hold it, okay, until it works completely. When it comes all the way down, you just let go. Again, now my clamps are locked down, so I have to come up here and release the clamps. And now my workpiece has our two holes drilled into it for the hinges. All right, so now that my two holes are drilled, I've got my pocket hole and my two dowel holes put into the workpiece. Now I can take one of my hinges, and with this lever opened up here, we're gonna take that and pop that into place, and it just gonna wiggle down in there. And once it's down flat along the workpiece, okay, then we're gonna push this lever down tight, and that's gonna lock it into place. So once it's down in there nice and firm against the workpiece, then we're going to push that in, and it's going to lock into place. Now if something were to come up and you need to remove this, maybe you haven't sanded the back side of your project yet, we can get a little piece of screwdriver or something under there and pop this lock lever up, and we can remove this clip or this hinge. So just because we've put it in now and we're kind of getting our project lined up, we can always undo this for our finishing of our project, whether that's sanding or clear coating or staining. We wouldn't want to try to stain around here, because then we're going to get stain all over our hinge, or clear coat over our hinge, or we might be left with a little bit of white or light colored around the hinge where it didn't get all the way underneath. So we want to pull these out before finishing or sanding our projects. But for now, we're going to put them in and show you how to install the door. So now I'm going to take my other hinge here, and I'm going to take that and just line it up into those holes, and it's going to kind of wiggle down in there. And once it's flat again, I'm going to lock that lever down, and we're locked into place. Now our hinges are installed on the door. Now we're going to go look at how to install the whole door onto the work project. So with my hinges installed on the door here, I can tell how far that distance needs to be from the bottom of the face frame to the top of this clip. And the way we can check or verify that is on our door. Before you put that clip on, we could take this and measure the distance from the clip to the top of the door. So I'm getting 1.5 inches from the clip to the top of the door. We know we're going to have a 1/2 inch overlay, so that leaves us 1 inch. So that's another way to verify how far down from the face frame rail your piece needs to be. I'm getting 1.5 inches. We have a 1/2 inch overlay, so that's going to be 1 inch. That means the distance between my bottom of my center rail and the top of this clip should be 1 inch for the correct reveal or overlay around the project. All right, so I've got my project laid on the side. You may want to put a scrap piece of wood underneath to protect the veneer from the surface you're working on. If there's any glue buildup or other things underneath the project that could damage the veneer, we want to protect that. Now we're going to put our hinges on, and I'm going to put my hinge on this way right here, my door on this direction. So I'm going to pull this top hinge off, and we're going to get that installed on the cabinet. Now to take this apart, there's just a little lever on the back side of the hinge, and if I push on that, the clip should pop right out. So now I'm going to lay this down here. I'm going to get my gap oriented just right so that I have the right amount there, and then I'm going to screw this into place. So let's take a closer look. All right, I'm going to be taking my 5/8 inch screw here, and I'm going to use this to install through the clip into the face frame to hold this in place. Now I'm trying to get this screw about centered in this hole. If I go about centered, then I've got a little bit of movement either way that I can adjust this later on. So if I go all the way to the end on one and all the way to the end on the other, I'm locked in place. So I'm trying to go in the center. I've also got these little tiny feet or pad on the back side here that are going to prevent me from going too close. So they're going to catch right on the face frame. I do not want them accidentally installed out a little bit. We want them nice and flush with the front of the face frame. Now, from my experience in here and the machine setting we have, we're going to take this and put a 1 inch distance between the bottom of the center rail and the top of the hinge. So we're going to come down 1 inch, and that is going to get me the 1/2 inch overlay that I need. So I'm going to line this up. I'm going to take my drill and my screw and carefully get in here and try to hold it. You may need somebody to give you a hand to put a finger on this while you screw in the other side, if you have somebody around to do that for you. We'll give this a shot here of doing this without a clamp or a hand and see how that goes. Okay, so I've got that one snug down. I'm not exactly center, but I'm close. Now I'm going to take another screw into that other hole and get that locked in place. Now between screws, I can take my tape measure and verify that I still have that 1 inch distance so that I know that I'm not going to have to move this later. You could pre-drill these holes if you wanted to. Typically these little 5/8 screws do not crack the face frame, but you could pre-drill so it's easier to align by yourself. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to clip on the door, and I'm going to latch on that top hinge. And now what it's going to do is it's going to allow this piece to sit at the right spot. So I don't have to measure a distance. I just need to push this in and put my screws into the hole. So that top one is going to hold it in place. The second one here is just going to kind of float around, and I'm going to push that down tight so my front little tabs are against the front of the face frame, and then I'm going to screw it in. All right, and now my door is all installed. If I stand this up and take a look, now these hinges that we have are slow closing so that they will not slam your door shut as you shut them. This particular hinge is quite nice. It also has some adjustments on here. If your door is not lining up quite square, maybe you cut something that was not square, or maybe your drawer front's a little tall or big, sorry, a little wide or short, we can adjust these two screws here. We want to do that with a screwdriver. One of these hinges will move the door from right to left, and the other screw will move the hinge in or out. So we can really do some aligning to make sure everything is nice and where it should be when you're done building your project. So again, these are the hinges that we have for you to use in class. So with our door installed, you could put a knob or a handle on here. There's several different types out there that you could do. I do not carry them in stock because there are so many different kinds, but you can check out your local hardware store to pick up a knob if you would like for your project. We could also take a little cove bit and cut a little groove for your fingers to fit into if you would like to do that as well. And I'll show you that in an example here, what that looks like. So over here on our wall that shows all of our profiles, if we take a look at this drawer or door pull, the 3/8 cove, what we can do is we can router the back edge of our workpiece and get a little cutout or a cove so your fingers can feel or fit into that cove and pull your door open or closed. If you do not want to buy a knob or handle from the hardware store, we could integrate something like this into the project. So here we've installed our slab door onto our workpiece or onto our project. And so pretty simple, pretty easy to do. Make sure you get them installed correctly so that you have a nice overlay on your project. One determining factor that you could have chosen was you need to determine if you want the door to swing open to the left or swing open to the right. And that might be based on where it's going to go. Maybe right now you're building your project to go next to your bed, and your bed is over here on this side, and you want to be able to open this up while you're in bed, those kind of things, and put stuff in there. So maybe your door would swing this way. If ever you want to change it, you could simply undo those 4 screws and put the door over here. You would just have some small screw holes on that side that you could fill or just leave. But we do want to take the hardware off when we do our finishing of the project so that the clear coat gets underneath. That way, if you do ever decide to change the hinge locations, then you don't have a spot of unfinished wood underneath those hinges.